Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're not just going to define Form 1042-S, we're going to deconstruct it, piece by piece, to show you how this one document is the absolute linchpin for the entire U.S. system of taxing people who don't live in the country.
So here's the fundamental challenge, right? If income is earned in the US, but it's paid to someone living abroad, how does the IRS actually collect the tax? I mean, trying to chase down millions of individuals and companies in hundreds of different countries, well, that's pretty much impossible. The system needed a smarter, more enforceable solution. And here it is. The solution is actually pretty clever. Instead of going after the recipient all over the world, the US tax code shifts the entire responsibility for the tax directly onto the person or the company that's making the payment in the first place. This is the core idea: withholding at the source. Okay, so let's map this whole thing out. We're going to start with the problem itself, then look at the huge responsibility placed on the payer. We'll cover how the form recipient has to prove who they are, how all of this gets officially recorded on Form 1042-S, and finally, how that form becomes the key to getting a refund.
All right, first up, let's get really specific about the problem we're solving. The US isn't trying to tax every single dollar paid to a foreign person, just a very particular category that comes from inside the US. The system really zooms in on what's called FTAP income. Now that's just a fancy term for passive income. Think of things like interest from a US bank, dividends from a US company, or royalties from a US patent. It's predictable, it's periodic, and that makes it the perfect target for a withholding system. Okay, so what's the system's answer to this challenge? Well, the entire enforcement mechanism, and I mean the entire thing, rests on the shoulders of one key player, the withholding agent. And let me tell you, this isn't an optional role. It comes with some serious legal weight.
And what's so crucial to understand here is that withholding agent is an incredibly broad term. This isn't just about big banks or brokerage firms. It could be a company paying a royalty to an adventurer overseas, or even just an individual paying interest. The bottom line is simple. If you control the money, guess what? You're the agent.
And this quote, man, it just perfectly illustrates the power of this system. This isn't a friendly suggestion. It's a legal liability. The withholding agent is personally on the hook for the tax. If they mess up and don't withhold the right amount, the IRS isn't going to chase the person overseas. Nope, they're coming straight to the agent for that money.
So the default weapon in the government's arsenal is a big one: a flat 30% tax. Unless the withholding agent has documented proof saying otherwise, they have to chop off a full 30% of the payment and send it straight to the IRS. This creates a really powerful motivator for the foreign person to get their paperwork in order, and fast.
But, okay, that 30% hammer isn't always the end of the story. The system does provide a way for foreign people to get a lower tax rate or maybe even pay nothing at all. But here's the catch: the burden of proof is completely on them. So if you want to avoid that big 30% hit, you have to give the withholding agent valid paperwork before they make the payment. It has to be a proactive step. You can't wait until after the fact, because by then, it's just too late. That 30% is gone. This slide lays it all out so perfectly: the cause and effect of the whole system. Think of it like this. The Form W-8BEN is the cause. It's the instruction manual you give to the payer before they do anything. Then the Form 1042-S is the effect. It's the history report that comes out after the year is over, showing exactly what happened based on those instructions. So let's break that down a little. The W-8BEN really does three critical jobs. First, it's your official statement saying, hey, I'm not a US person. Second, you're swearing that you're the true owner of the income, not just some middleman. And third, and this is the big one for a lot of people, it's the tool you use to claim a lower tax rate because of a tax treaty between the US and your country. Okay, so fast forward. The year's over, all the payments have gone out, and tax has been withheld based on those W-8s. Now what? Well, now the system needs a final, official accounting of everything.
And that's exactly where Form 1042S comes into play.
And this is a really, really important point. When someone gets a Form 1042S in the mail, it is not a bill. It's not asking for more money. Think of it like a receipt. It's a statement of fact that says, here's how much you were paid, and here's how much US tax we already took out and paid for you. A copy goes to them, and a copy goes to the IRS, so everyone is on the same page.
All right, if you really want to read this form, you've got to know its key data points. First up is the income code. This little 2-digit number tells the whole story of what kind of income we're talking about. Was it dividends from a stock, interest, royalties? That code tells all. Next, you've got the tax rate. This field is simple. It shows you the exact percentage they took out. You'll see 30.00 if it was the default rate, maybe 15.00 for a common treaty rate, or even 00.00 if the income was totally exempt from tax. And finally, there's the exemption code. This one is the why. It explains why the tax rate wasn't the full 30%. If the rate is lower, this code has to be there. For instance, you might see code 04, which basically screams, we used a tax treaty. Or you might see code 02, which points to a specific exemption written right into the US tax code itself. And check this out, this table just connects all the dots perfectly. It shows the direct data trail. The claims you make on that W-8 bin directly fill in the boxes on the Form 1042S. If you say you live in a certain treaty country on your W-8, that country's code has to show up on the 1042S. If you claim a 15% rate, the tax rate on the form has to be 15%. It creates this perfect auditable paper trail from beginning to end.
Okay, so why should the foreign person actually care so much about this form? I mean, what's the big deal? Well, because it's not just a record, it's a tool. It's the key that unlocks the final step in this whole process, settling up with the IRS.
You know, the withholding system is pretty efficient, but let's be real, it's not always perfect. Sometimes too much tax gets taken out. Maybe the W-8 form was sent in late, or there was some other mistake. Well, that Form 1042S is their golden ticket. It's the proof they need to go to the IRS and say, hey, you owe me some money back. And the process for getting that refund is super structured. First, they get their copies of the form. Then they use that info to fill out a US non-resident tax return. And here's the part you absolutely cannot forget. They have to attach a copy of the Form 1042-S to their return. It's the primary evidence. It's what proves to the IRS that, yes, this much tax was already paid for. So when you zoom out and look at the whole thing, you see this really elegant 4-step system. It's a closed loop. It starts with certify. The recipient provides the W-8. That triggers withhold, where the payer does their legal duty. Then comes report, where the payer documents it all on Form 1042S. And finally, that report allows the recipient to reconcile, filing with the IRS to get back any money they overpaid. It's a perfect cycle. And this all leads us to one final, really interesting thought. Since the withholding agent is the one who's personally liable for the tax, just accepting a Form W-8 is actually filled with risk. It makes you wonder what has to happen behind the scenes. It implies that any smart payer has to build these robust internal systems just to check and validate the forms they get, which turns what looks like a simple tax form into a huge operational challenge.